Here's something that should concern every Nigerian, no matter where you live or what you believe. In recent days, reports coming out of Kaduna have drawn international attention, not because of politics or elections, but because of human lives and safety. The issue is serious, and the implications go far beyond one community or one faith. What we're talking about today is the abduction of Christian worshippers in parts of Kaduna State, and the reaction it has triggered from the United States government, which is now urging Nigeria to step up protection for Christians and other vulnerable groups. This is not about blaming or inflaming tensions, but about understanding what happened, why it matters, and what it says about security challenges in the country. Before we go deeper, if you find videos like this helpful for staying informed, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments as we go along. Your engagement really helps the conversation reach more people who need to hear it. According to reports from local accounts and religious groups, the incident involved the abduction of Christians in parts of Kaduna, a state that has for years struggled with insecurity linked to armed groups, banditry, and communal tensions. In some cases, these abductions reportedly happened around church-related activities or in nearby communities, which has raised fears among residents about being targeted based on their faith. While details can vary depending on the source, what is clear is that families were left traumatized, communities shaken, and questions once again raised about safety. Kaduna is not new to these kinds of security challenges. Over the years, people living in parts of the state have dealt with attacks on villages, kidnappings for ransom, and clashes that often take on ethnic or religious dimensions. Many residents say they live with constant anxiety, especially when traveling, attending worship, or going about daily life in rural areas. So when another abduction is reported, it reopens old wounds and deepens existing fears. What made this particular situation stand out is the response from the United States. U.S. officials, speaking through official statements and diplomatic channels, urged the Nigerian government to take stronger steps to protect Christians and ensure accountability for those responsible. The U.S. position, according to public remarks, is framed around freedom of religion and the responsibility of governments to protect all citizens equally, regardless of faith. Now, it's important to be careful here. The US urging Nigeria to act does not mean Nigeria has lost control entirely, nor does it mean only one group is suffering. Insecurity in Nigeria affects Muslims, Christians, and people of all backgrounds. Farmers, traders, students, and travelers have all been victims at different times. However, the concern being raised is that some communities feel repeatedly targeted and insufficiently protected, and that perception alone can deepen divisions if not addressed. From the Nigerian government side, officials have repeatedly said they are committed to tackling insecurity. Security operations have been launched in the northwest and other regions, and arrests have been announced from time to time. But many Nigerians feel the pace of improvement is slow, especially in rural and semi-rural areas where armed groups often operate with little resistance. When abductions continue despite these efforts, public confidence is affected. For Christians in Kaduna and nearby areas, these reports reinforce a sense of vulnerability. Some church leaders have spoken about declining attendance at services, not because of lack of faith, but because of fear. Parents worry about letting their children attend activities. Entire communities adjust their routines, avoiding night gatherings or long-distance travel. These are quiet changes that don't always make headlines, but they deeply affect daily life. At the same time, Muslim communities in the same regions also live with fear. Bandits do not always ask about religion before attacking, and many Muslim families have also lost loved ones to kidnapping and violence. This is why many voices within Nigeria stress that insecurity should not be framed as a religious war, but as a broader failure of safety that demands a united response. So why does the US involvement matter? International pressure often brings global attention, and with attention comes accountability. When a major partner like the United States speaks out, it signals that the issue is being watched beyond Nigeria's borders. This can influence diplomatic relations, aid discussions, and human rights assessments. It can also push local authorities to act more decisively, knowing the world is paying attention. However, some Nigerians feel uncomfortable with external pressure, arguing that security issues should be handled internally without foreign commentary. Others believe that international voices can help amplify the concerns of affected communities who feel unheard at home. Both views exist, and both reflect deeper questions about sovereignty, responsibility, and trust in leadership. Another important aspect is how these incidents are reported. In today's media environment, misinformation can spread quickly. Exaggerated claims or unverified details can inflame tensions and create fear beyond what is supported by facts. That's why careful wording matters. Saying reports indicate or according to local accounts is not weakness. It's responsible communication, especially in sensitive situations like this. For people living outside Kaduna, it might be tempting to tune out or see this as a distant problem. But insecurity has a way of spreading. What starts in one region can affect others through displacement, economic disruption, and national anxiety. Markets feel it, schools feel it, and inter-community trust feels it. The conversation also raises questions about long-term solutions. Military action alone may not be enough. Many experts argue for better intelligence gathering, community policing, economic opportunities for at-risk youth, and sincere dialogue between communities. Trust building is slow, but without it, security efforts may only treat symptoms, not causes. As Nigerians discuss the US statement and the Kaduna abductions, there's also a need for empathy. Behind every report are real people, families waiting for loved ones, children asking difficult questions, and communities trying to hold themselves together. Reducing the issue to politics or religion alone risks losing sight of that human reality. If you're finding this discussion useful so far, remember to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. And please comment with your thoughts, especially if you're from the region, or have insights on how these issues affect everyday life. Respectful conversation matters. Looking ahead, many will be watching what steps Nigerian authorities take next. Will there be improved security presence in vulnerable areas? Will investigations lead to arrests and prosecutions? Will affected communities feel safer weeks and months from now? These are the questions that really matter, more than statements alone. It's also worth noting that Nigeria's diversity has always been one of its strengths. Christians and Muslims have lived side by side in many communities for generations. Allowing insecurity to drive wedges between them only benefits those who profit from chaos. Most Nigerians, regardless of faith, want the same thing: safety, dignity, and the freedom to live without fear. In wrapping up, the Kaduna abduction reports and the US call for stronger protection highlight a painful but important reality. Insecurity remains a major challenge, and how it is addressed will shape trust in institutions and relationships between communities. Staying informed, asking questions, and engaging calmly are small but meaningful steps ordinary people can take. Thank you for listening all the way through. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Staying informed together is one way we keep these conversations honest and grounded. As we continue this conversation, it's important to look at how situations like this affect Nigeria's image on the global stage. When reports of abductions linked to religious identity make international news, it shapes how the world sees the country. Investors become cautious, foreign governments review travel advisories, and Nigeria is discussed more for insecurity than for its culture, innovation, or economic potential. This is not just a reputation issue. It has real consequences for jobs, development, and opportunities. Within Nigeria, reactions to the US statement have been mixed. Some people see it as a wake-up call, arguing that if citizens feel unsafe in their places of worship, then something is fundamentally wrong. Others worry that highlighting Christian suffering without equal emphasis on other victims could deepen suspicion and resentment between communities. These reactions show just how delicate the issue is, and why careful, balanced responses are needed. Security analysts often point out that Kaduna sits in a complex zone, influenced by problems from the northwest and north-central regions. Armed groups move across state boundaries, taking advantage of difficult terrain and limited local enforcement. In such an environment, protecting places of worship, schools, and villages requires more than checkpoints. It requires coordination between federal forces, state authorities, and local communities who understand the landscape. Another layer to this issue is the economic strain insecurity creates. When farmers are afraid to go to their fields, food prices rise. When traders avoid certain routes, markets suffer. When families spend money on ransoms or relocation, poverty deepens. These pressures affect everyone, regardless of religion, and they quietly weaken the social fabric. Religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim, have repeatedly called for calm and cooperation. In many instances, they have urged followers not to see neighbors as enemies, but as fellow victims of a larger problem. These voices are crucial, especially when fear and anger threaten to dominate public discussion. Unity at the community level can sometimes succeed where formal structures struggle. The role of the media also deserves attention. Responsible reporting can inform and protect, while careless reporting can inflame tensions. That's why measured language matters, and why viewers should be cautious about sensational headlines circulating on social media. Not every viral post reflects verified facts, and reacting emotionally to incomplete information can unintentionally worsen the situation. For families directly affected by the abductions, the wait is often the hardest part. Days and weeks of uncertainty take a psychological toll that lasts long after headlines fade. Support systems, including counseling and community aid, are often limited, leaving people to cope largely on their own. This human cost is something statistics rarely capture. International partners like the US often frame their concerns around human rights and religious freedom, principles they say apply globally. Whether one agrees with their involvement or not, the underlying message is that citizens should not fear attending church, mosque, or any place of worship. That expectation is basic, and many Nigerians believe it should not require foreign reminders. At the same time, long-term peace will likely depend on addressing root causes, such as unemployment, poor governance, and weak justice systems. When crimes go unpunished, cycles of violence continue. When young people see no future, armed groups find easy recruits. Security, therefore, is tied closely to development and fairness. As conversations continue online and offline, there's a need for patience and listening. Shouting matches on social media rarely solve real problems. Constructive pressure on leaders, combined with community-level cooperation, stands a better chance of producing change, even if progress feels slow. If you're still watching and you value calm, in-depth discussions like this, remember to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your comments are welcome, especially if you have perspectives on how security challenges can be addressed without dividing communities. In the end, the Kaduna abduction reports are not just another news cycle. They are a reminder that safety, trust, and coexistence require constant efforts. How Nigeria responds now, both in action and in tone, will matter not just to those directly affected, but to the nation as a whole.